Jimmy, I don't know what you do, you and your wife every year, but I've been coming here to your home, you and Rishi, for Charlie. How many years now? 7? Is it? Right? 6. Oh, 6 out of 7. Thank you. I've been coming here as many years as you've invited me to help to make this event on behalf of the SAFE organization. And one of the things that's been consistent, and I'm not sure why, is behind us. You get, and that's why I was a little bit feisty, people want to leave. Want to play tennis, they want to play golf, they want to do what they want to do. But we filled up the house because it's safe, because it means so much to everybody that's here and everybody that has already pledged and given money to SAFE. So first I wanted to say to you, Mr. President, you're doing a job on behalf of SAFE. I know because I watch multiple organizations in our community, and I'm watching what you're doing, and I think that you're the most incredible person for organizing, managing, and watching SAFE, and what you're going to talk about this morning, plus the building next door. It's a lot of work, everybody. You need to know that Jimmy Haddad is committed with all of his heart, as you've seen these years. Unfortunately, and I'll get to you. Unfortunately, what you're going to hear this morning is that SAFE is growing. We want Magen David and Flatbush and YDE, and we want them to grow. We don't want SAFE to grow. We don't want Bikur Halim to grow. We don't want to give more food and social services to people. It means they're hurting. It means they have problems. And there is no question from the sidelines that I've interacted on many situations, and the first name that has come up in the cases that I've dealt with is SAFE. My son is at SAFE. My daughter was at SAFE. My husband is at SAFE. And you're doing an incredible job with all of these wonderful therapists and people. And I told you the other day when we spoke at Charlie's backyard that I wanted to see. I speak for the community, not for me. Not for me. The schools get a double down. I want you to do more work. I want you to put more people. Every month, it's never enough that you can do in our schools and institutions, in the high schools. The gambling problem in the community that you oversee has become an epidemic. It's an epidemic. These kids think because they get $200, they got free money. Well, they got pulled in, they got rope-a-dope, they got 3-card Monty'd. That's what they got. They got tricked. But they don't know that when they get to $200. So it's only one of the many things that SAFE is doing, multiple things. And before I call you up, Mr. President, I want to say also to Charlie, I've spoken with you over the course of the year 100 times. Names are never mentioned on your end, but if I know on my end, they're mentioned, and then we talk because we want to have a mutual care for the family that's involved. And people don't think I work. I don't. I don't think you work anymore. I don't. And I told you that last Friday too. In business, well, that's because you get the money, which you deserve. You deserve it. Alice deserves it. But to Charlie Tabelli, everybody, you're not going to know. You're just not going to know. But now I revealed it. He is putting his life into people that were called into SAFE to help to guide them, to save them. If they have to go out of town, he arranges that. When they come back, he works with that. He works with their families during the time they're away. And it's a 365-day-a-year mission that you've taken on, being a part of this organization. I just want to say in my closing initial remarks, there is no more important organization today in our community that's going to be there to save lives, to help the people that lost their way. They lost their way. For whatever reason, however it happened, whatever came about that caused them to have drug, alcohol, gambling, and a multitude of other things that SAFE is equipped to deal with and handle. They are there. They're like the big basket that everybody falls into because they are the only organization in the Syrian Jewish community for all 80,000 of us that's going to handle these cases, these people, these situations. Their rate of success is incredible, incredible. The people that they get back on their feet. So, with no further ado, I gave my opening remarks, how I feel. I think I speak for all of you, how you feel about the SAFE organization that Jimmy is the president of, Ike is the chairman. I know that I left Ike out for one reason. It's just one simple reason. He doesn't like to be spoken about. He's the founder. We all heard the story about when he met Stanley watching over us, the big Stanley cheerer. And from there, Ike, it became history. I don't know what we would have done without you, without this organization, without the structure that ultimately became SAFE. You know, when you put your head on the pillow every night, you're saving lives of people that otherwise, who knows? Who knows what the otherwise is? But I could tell you, in the case of this organization, it's not good. Without them, it's not good. So thank the three of you stars in the front row. I left out everybody else that's on the board, the committee. To all of you, you know who you are. Keep it up. Keep working. Keep doing. You couldn't be spending your God-gifted time in a better way than helping SAFE to look after everyone in this community that needs their help to save them and get them back to their destination. Jimmy, come on up.
Harry, thank you for dressing appropriately in the SAFE color scheme. You have no idea how good you look behind the sign. Incredible.
I thought about what I was going to dress from last night.
It's perfect.
You know the kid that goes to the first day of school?
Yes.
He puts his pants and shirt on. That's what I did for you.
I thought Alice did that for you.
I picked my own clothes.
I also, just so that I can go to bed tonight without any agita, he said that Nancy deserves the money she gets, Alice deserves the money she gets, Rishi also deserves the money that she gets. Thank you for letting me do this again. It's a privilege that I take, and in true Gambino style, I told Rishi, I'm hosting again. It's coming back to me. And she said, just when I thought I was out, you pull me back in. It's my honor and privilege to welcome to the stage the lead sponsor of today's event, BHI Bank, Mr. Gil Carney and his team. I want to tell you, it's not taken for granted that they every single year answer the call, no questions asked. We love your organization. We see what you do for the community. He runs his bank like he runs his life, with care and dedication, and it's just a special partnership that's existed for about 13, 14 years now, and every year it grows. Mr. Gil Carney, please come on up.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, the Haddad family, for hosting and organizing this event. It's an honor to be here today. For me, actually, it's the fourth time that I'm participating in this event, but for the bank, it's many more years. BHI, for your knowledge, it's Bank Hapoalim International. Okay, here in the States, we choose to call ourselves BHI. more easy to pronounce. As I said, I'm honored to be here today, and I wanted to let those words linger. It's an honor to be here today, or anywhere, any day for that matter. Every breath is a blessing, and that's something that is fundamental mission of the SAFE Foundation, which since inception, 2003, has treated over 9,000 people, helping our communities combat the chronic disease of addiction and meet those needs with holistic treatment options of embrace and support the person and strengthen our families and our communities. Those sentiments, that every day is a blessing, that our shared support helps strengthen our community, it's that shared sense of community that reinforces our strength and our resolve. It's something that, especially in light of the tragedy that Israel suffered on October 7, I know we collectively need. Supporting one another as we cope with that shared trauma and find ways to hope again for a brighter future. As an institution, BHI and Bank Hapoalim have focused on how we can help our communities heal and rebuild. For establishing a $100 million fund to support the rebuild of the southern area of Israel, to donate tens of millions to organizations both in Israel and the US who are targeting support for Israel and including the communities here. Just a flavor of what we have done so far. So we supported hospital in the south that was hit during the attacks. Zaka, everybody knows, the Voluntary Community Emergency Response Team, who were tasked with impossible missions, along with mental health organization and raising awareness in the US about hostages crisis. Of course, together with FIDF, IAC, many other organizations, and organizations that are supporting directly the community here, like SAFE. We believe in the resiliency of not just Israeli economy, but the resiliency of our people, of our communities. What has transpired is a stark reminder that hatred and persecution is not just an artifact from ancient times or a grim account from grandparents and parents about the horror of modern times, but it's also a reminder that we are stronger as a community when we're supporting each other. On behalf of the entire BJ team, I want to extend our heartfelt recognition and gratitude to the dedicated staff and volunteers and members of the SAFE. As BHI marks its 50 years operation in the US this year, I'm happy to stand here and to declare our continued commitment to the SAFE community, the communities we operate in, here and in Israel. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the Board of SAFE, the staff at SAFE, and the entire community that you help, we want to present you with this beautiful menorah. It's a symbol of the light that you provide for all of us. Thank you, Gil.
Very touching. Thank you very much, all.
Year after year, my dear friend, Harry Ajmi, answers the call to service. He answers the call to dedicate his personal time, the call to donate funds, the call to help in any way possible. Thank you very much, Harry, for always standing shoulder to shoulder with us. This year in particular has been difficult for us, and all our hearts remain heavy, knowing that our brothers and sisters in Israel are being held hostage, are putting their lives in danger for the defense of our beloved Eretz Yisrael. Our collective thoughts and prayers never veer far from them, and we beseech the Almighty to bring the hostages and our soldiers home safely to their families where they belong and to bring peace to the region. I'm going to only lightly touch on each of SAFE's divisions so as to keep the program short. We can enjoy the rest of this day. As we watched in horror ever since October 7th, in some ways, it felt like the world stood still. But the mission that SAFE tackles day in and day out has not been lessened. The level of calls to SAFE for help have not abated. The struggles of our clients be it substance or alcohol misuse, problem gambling, or eating disorders, have not gotten easier to bear. To the contrary, SAFE is more vital to our community's health and well-being than ever before. Once again, we've received over 800 calls for help this past year. 800 families going through distress, reaching out, and fortunately, having somewhere to turn. Alarmingly, but not surprisingly, over the last 3 years, admissions to SAFE's clinics for problem gambling has more than doubled, coinciding directly with the legalization of gambling in New York and New Jersey. I don't even recognize the sports of my youth anymore. An NFL, an NBA game, they're replete with advertisements for gambling sites, with the focus of the games and broadcasts on individual stats and player performances, directly targeting our kids with flashy graphics and multiple screens, ultimately encouraging them to place bets. Who actually won the game means nothing. It's only by how many points they won. Who in particular did the scoring? What made sports a worthwhile endeavor, physical fitness, learning how to succeed through teamwork, fell by the wayside. Did the college team from a place I couldn't find on a map of the United States, if you asked me to point to it, did they cover the spread? That's sports in 2024. While it hasn't borne out yet in our admission statistics, I fear marijuana misuse cases are also going to skyrocket from their current levels. Technically legalized a couple of years ago at the same time as gambling for dispensaries, marijuana was legalized at the same time, but much slower to roll out. Gambling sites were up and running immediately upon legalization. The marijuana places, still, just because it was legalized in the state doesn't mean that the stores were licensed to actually start selling. That was a much longer process that's first coming online now. So I'm really saddened to imagine that the same spike we're seeing in gambling, no pun intended with spike, same spike we're seeing in gambling we're going to see with marijuana misuse as well. Fortunately, we have the infrastructure to treat our clients as well as their family members. Our incredible clinical director, Jessica Steinmetz, leads a dedicated team of doctors, therapists, clinicians, a staff, a building full of medical professionals versed in the unique stresses and pressures of our community. Over 100 active cases right this moment in our building. Confidentiality is paramount. Harry touched on it before. I myself have no idea who calls or is receiving treatment at SAFE. It's only when I call somebody for a donation and they tell me, somebody, a family member of mine is going through it right now. I have no idea. Confidentiality is key. This year, SAFE was awarded its license to have an office in New Jersey. We've been operating in New Jersey for several years, many years, but we actually officially finally got the license process done. So we're glad that we're going to be able to serve the New Jersey community just like Brooklyn. We've accomplished in mere months what takes years to do. That is getting a license to treat eating disorders. It normally takes years, I'm telling you. SAFE got it done in months. We got our conditional license. It's pending right now, the building out of the building next door. Waiting for that final step to get the go-ahead from the Office of Mental Health. That being said, we didn't stop. We did not treat. Pending certification, we've been taking assessments on an initial basis, and we've so far received and referred 44 clients for treatment that we're paying for and seeing them, 10 of which I'm very, very proud to say have already graduated successfully. I can tell you just from empirical evidence, it seems that the eating disorder division is going to grow exponentially over the next few years just by seeing how it started at such a trajectory where it will probably outpace the calls for all the other issues SAFE deals with combined. Project SAFE is the sibling project Project Safe and its sibling project, Project Self, are being taught to over 3,000 of our kids each week in 12 community schools. The slideshow that you see on the screens are shots of but a small sample of the various programming that Liat Dahan, Safe's Director of Community Education, has put in place for grades 5 through 12. In addition to age-appropriate weekly education on the dangers of substance and alcohol use, Project Self covers topics like bullying, safe driving, self-esteem, body positivity, other topics that lead to addictive behaviors in high school or even later in life. The best treatment we can give for addiction is to endeavor not to become an addict in the first place. Last but not least, safe parenting. Safe parenting aims to assist the single most important influence on our children's lives, our community parents. Through small workshops and larger scale events, Safe Parenting tackles the most difficult of problems facing our community parents. To that end, I really want you to mark your calendars. Tuesday, July 31st, at the DSN Beach Club, Safe Parenting is bringing Professor Jonathan Haidt, author of the current New York Times bestselling book, The Anxious Generation. This is a highly recommended read for any young parent. Together, in partnership with SBH and Simha, as well as our community schools, SAFE is making a tremendous effort and push to educate parents on the benefits of delaying giving our kids a smartphone until they are teenagers. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, Harry, you stood up here and it wasn't part of the program, and you were very, very prescient in saying that the cell phones are so dangerous. Sadly, it's come to bear. We recently did a survey among our yeshiva students. I'm just going to give you one stat. 61% of kids, our kids, this is not a random survey, this was a survey taken of our students, 61% feel worse about themselves after scrolling through social media. More than half. Those are the ones that admit it. Please, July 31st, Tuesday night, I highly encourage attendance by especially young parents that have kids are contemplating about what age to get their kids a cell phone. I've thrown a lot of numbers around. 800 calls, 3,000 students, 100 active clients, to say nothing of the dozens of cases that SAFE manages that require a level of care more intensive than SAFE's outpatient facilities. But the number I want to talk about, again, this year is 1. I could spend hours detailing the amount of effort and care, pain, anguish, fear, and uncertainty, the amount of phone calls, hand-holding, cajoling, educating, and rehabilitating that goes into just one case, just one. It's hours and hours and hours, and we're there to do it. Addiction is a disease unlike any other, a disease where oftentimes the afflicted person suffering either doesn't even want medical help or has difficulty sustaining treatment, even if they welcome treatment. It's a disease the tentacles of which affect the afflicted as well as everyone else in their orbit, their spouse, their parents, their children, their business partners, their friends. One case affects dozens of community members. So I stand up here once again asking for your help. I'm not asking you to put in the thousands of hours needed to do the work, but please, if you're able, provide us with the funding that we need to keep our doors open and treat this disease, to meet the need for our badly needed expansion, to continue educating our kids and our parents to hopefully avoid the need for treatment at all one day. I really, really thank you very much all for being here. It's not lost on me that it's a magnificent day. It's not lost on me how difficult it is and how many organizations ask for help and demand our presence at the events. The support is really, really helpful. It's the wind behind our sails. It's what keeps us going. Ike.
So every year I come up here and I print out a page or two, what I'm going to say. But I don't know. What's it really worth? Yes, yes. Stanley Chira. Alav Shalom. Every year I come back here and I think of Stanley. And I was telling somebody the story earlier. How one year, I think it was 2008 or 2009, at his house, 6 in the morning, my phone rings. I think it's a client. What's up? Get to my house now. I run to the house, poor Norma running around. Stanley's directing the show. He looks at me. He says, it's raining. I said, I see that, Stanley. It's raining. What are we going to do? He says, do you have a tent? I said, no, no tent. What's the plan? I said, we're doing God's work. We'll work it out. I don't know. A few hours later, it's bright, it's sunny. The event is over. Stanley looks at me with those piercing eyes. He looks at me and he says, you're good. You're better than me. I said, no, Stan, we're a team. And with every team working together, things work out. Our SAFE team is an incredible, incredible team. The amount of work and effort that our people do is incredible. Not every case is easy. Not every case is going to turn out great. The SAFE board, incredible. Volunteers. I was talking to James's son earlier today. I said, wow, how do you do it? How do you last with this guy and work? He's so intense. He says, not so easy. He says, but when 502 hits, he's the father again. And I thank you, James. I thank you, Charlie, SAFE board, Corey, Joe, Marvin, Lorraine. I'm sorry Michelle, if I missed a few names, but it really is an incredible job. And Stanley, my nephew, and all the work that they're doing voluntarily. I get paid. I went back to school. I got my license. I get paid to do this. They volunteer their time, which is really amazing. The committees, head by Diane, school, Liat, that they had mentioned earlier, is really, really an unbelievable place to be. None of that work that we do would be successful without everybody. But today is a special day. As you can see, it's a beautiful day. There's no humidity after 2 weeks of 90 degree heat. And you come here this morning for some chizuk, for some strength, and realized that this is what it's all about. Hashem puts us on this earth to save lives, to make changes, and to help others. Today you're going to hear a little story. And it's not easy to get up here and tell your story. A young man, a father, struggling with gambling issues, losing his family, and he made one call. He made one call for help. And today he's going to share that story. He's going to talk about his life. And I'd like you to welcome Morty Cameo.
I gotta just embrace the moment for a second. This is unbelievable. Good morning, everyone. I'm truly honored and privileged to be here today. Thank you, Spike. Thank you, Safe. Thanks for James to open up his house and invite me here. And thanks for Hashem for letting me be here, standing here in front of you. If you told me 10 years ago I'd be on stage sharing my life story with the entire community and trying to help people, I would say you're insane. But I'm here now, and I'm very, very humbled. Before I share anything about my story and my addiction, which was compulsive gambling, we need to know what the definition of compulsive gambler is. Any betting or wagering for self or others, whether for money or not, no matter how slight or insignificant, where the outcome is uncertain or depends upon chance or skill, constitutes gambling. That means if you're playing with your friends a tennis game and this guy just decides to say, you know what, I'll pay for the court, that's gambling. If somebody wants to play basketball with you one-on-one and decides, he wants to take it on, that's considered gambling. I want to take a moment and touch on the dangers of gambling, especially with what's going on today with our youth. Not to say that I'm any older, but kids are watching sports now more than ever. The lines, which means that the odds are on the actual TV screen. They can bet while they're actually watching the game. We can't stay away from it. Here's the insanity, and I was actually at that speech when Harry was giving about the cell phones the other day. These little gadgets that don't leave our hands, cell phones, are making it worse. With gambling apps and online casinos, actually, just a tap away, the number of youth exposed to gambling has skyrocketed, as Jimmy said. A recent survey, which I found on ChatGPT, thank you, that 55% of 11 to 16-year-old kids have the gambling apps on their phone. 11 to 16-year-old kids have it on their phone. Crazy enough, I was actually at the office the other day, and a couple of kids, about 7 kids, were leaving the office, and I said, you know what, our kids, community kids, I said, let me take a poll here. I said, out of the 7 guys, how many guys do you have an app on the phone? 4 of them raised their hands and said, me. So that's already half. And these are guys I just met 30 seconds ago, and I said, let me take a poll. With kids being targeted more than ever, it's crucial for parents, wives, friends here today to be educated on these things and this topic. I heard a speech from my rabbi the other day. It was a great analogy where the rabbi was asked to speak on the topic. Any topic, they said, Rabbi, choose a topic. How about raising children? He goes, raising children? I don't know much about raising children, but what I do know is about raising parents. When Ike actually called me, I spoke at Hillel once before to the kids of our community. I spoke to the Magen David kids of our community. And now I actually stand here in front of you speaking to the parents of these kids. And I feel very special to actually relay the message to you because I know how important it is. Let's be clear on one thing. Gambling is a very profitable business. They know exactly how to get you hooked. Apps like FanDuel, which they mentioned, they're spending around $300 per new customer acquisition. Think about that. We're all businessmen here. $300 to get somebody hooked. That can literally be any one of us today. DraftKings, they're giving up to $1,000 in casino credit. You don't even have to go to the casino anymore. It's literally on your phone. So gambling companies are spending almost double, even triple, to get these new customers. They're not idiots. They know that they can hook anybody at any given time. Okay, now that we have that clear, the fun part. Let me introduce myself. I'm Morty Cameo. I have the addiction of being a compulsive gambler. And my last bet was 3,559 days ago. Thank you. You would never think that this would be your moment, or if it would be my moment, but it is. It's my moment. My gambling started innocently enough with some scratch-offs during high school when I was about 15 or 16 years old. I was, a little kid just playing scratch-offs during recess. A night of friendly poker tournaments with the boys for $20, which turned to 40, 60, $100, eventually thousands. Occasional visits to the casino in AC, occasional trips to Aruba, which all of our kids have been, including myself. Don't be fooled. Your kids are in the casino, whether they're of age or not, they're there. They think it's cool. That's what I thought. I thought it was cool. All these gambling binges, and I never really looked at myself like I had a real problem. Over my teenage years, it quickly escalated from small amounts to higher amounts, And I'm talking a lot higher amounts. I remember once at a friend's bachelor party in Montreal, I passed by a shop and, I was debating whether to buy sunglasses at a store. And I look at the glasses and I was like, oh, $400, okay. So I started thinking, I'm like, I'm gonna buy them with the manipulation of easily convincing my friends that night that we should go to the casino to try to make back that 400. Those glasses cost me $4,000 at the end of the night. Losing the money didn't hurt. Well, it did, but losing money did hurt, obviously. But it was the manipulation, it was the craziness that I was able to convince my friends anything. It's called in the program stinking thinking. We just want to think in a way where we can just tell people what to do and convince them. My business career started out in the mail order industry trying to make money at the time. Considering the pressures and the price of nice things nowadays, especially out of high school, especially of the kids now that I see, they just want to make it. They want to make it big. They see everybody else making it big. They see our community. They see how tough it is. They see how hard it is to actually make it. So they want quick money. It's also nice as a teenager to just buy things that you don't even need. It's just fun. I remember when I was young and I was making money, I didn't have any expenses. I just bought stuff. They were just sitting there and for no reason. I was betting on anything and everything. Baseball in the middle of the day, soccer at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, tennis at 4 a.m. while I was sleeping. I just needed the action, just to get through my day. But why? What was I missing? Was it escape? Was I trying to run from something? Was it boredom? Was it self-worth? Did I feel like I can't make it in life? What was it? I remember leaving the Shabbat table, actually, on one of the Friday nights, just to place bets and watch the action. Shabbat? What's Shabbat? I was gambling every time, all the time, on Shabbat too. There's no religion when you're in the grip of the illness. It makes no difference. The one thing that I would love back is the time that I've lost with my parents and my siblings. That's the one thing I couldn't replace. So sorry, Bob. Sorry, Dad. I soon found myself opening up my own business that barely lasted a year, considering the responsibilities that I took on, which were zero. I was gambling while I was trying to make a living. I was dating while I was trying to get married. I wanted to just be a normal person. Ike always mentions it in his speech. I just want to be a normal person. After deciding to shift gears, I leave the industry. I went into the wholesale apparel for about 2 years thinking I can learn and grow something and do something and be something finally. Maybe I can get over this, slowly but surely. But the gambling didn't stop. Day in and day out, week in and week out, I saw myself taking money from my accounts that I had somewhat saved up and paying my bookie. Back then we had bookies. We actually had to go see somebody. I had to go see somebody to actually have the action. We keep talking about it over and over this morning about how easy it is for the kids or anybody in general to actually make a bet. I had to go see somebody. Picture this for a moment. A lot of you guys work in the city. I used to work near a 1407 building. I used to wait for this guy to show up, this big guy, and I would give him a wad of cash every Monday. Why? To replenish my account. Because all I cared about was the bet. Week in, week out, week in and week out. Just paying the guy. The guy became my best friend at one point. Why wouldn't he? I'm giving him all this money all the time. Nothing mattered, just the next bet. Luckily, throughout the new job, though, one positive thing did come about that. I found my lovely wife, Karen, who's sitting here. Yes, she's still sitting here. I got married at 25 and she was 21. 21. She was young. I was young. Kids are getting younger by the minute getting married these days. They don't even know who their spouse is sometimes. She was in for a rude awakening. 5 days after we got married, I decided to fly my parents to Vegas, considering there was an off-price show. I thought it would be a great idea, no? every compulsive gambler's dream. I decided to make a sheva berachot in Vegas. I flew in my parents. My in-laws were already there. It sounds funny now, but it was a great story. As we were heading up the room, you know, being the compulsive gambler that I was comped at the Wynn Casino, and my parents stayed at the Venetian with my in-laws and everybody, and I thought I looked cool because I was in a different hotel. Little do you know that I used to gamble in AC, you know, I was comped from Vegas, and that's why we stayed at the Wynn. As we were making our way to the room, I decided to take a 3-hour pit stop by the blackjack tables. My wife was sitting by my side. I'm playing 4 hands of blackjack, $50 to $100 each hand. She looked at me like it was fun for a while. 1 hour goes by, 2 hours goes by. All right, let's go. I said, no, you go. 5 days married, guys. I decided to come up at 3 in the morning, maxed out of my credit cards, knocking on the door, and she decides to open up the door while yelling and screaming while packing up her bags and saying, I'm out. So my newly married wife, after 5 days, has threatened to leave, and it hasn't even been a week. Despite thinking I hit my rock bottom, you would think I'd be done. But I continued to gamble for another year. It just got worse, never better. Taking money from our safety deposit box week in and week out, paying multiple bookies, not just one, I had multiple at the time. Walking into Chase Bank for that final time and seeing a black empty bag with a $72 voucher that was left for my wedding money, which was over 150 grand that I blew away. I reached my lowest point. I felt defeated, broken, and very alone. The weight of my actions pressed down on every waking moment. I felt worthless. Over time, I actually became numb to that feeling. That's what gambling does. It makes you feel good about your losses. It makes you feel like, oh, this is normal, this feeling. That's the feeling I always had. That's when my friend now, who actually, believe it or not, was my bookie at the time, he even thought I had a problem. He said, hey, call Ike D. I said, who's Ike D? He's like, take the number and call. I remember exactly where I was. It was in the showroom of still in the wholesale company. I call Ike. I said, hey, Ike, I'm Morty. I have a gambling problem. He said, great, perfect client. Bring your wife in and we'll talk. Click, I hung up on. Call my wife. What does my wife have to do with it? I have the problem, not my wife. I decided to move on. After another month of unthinkable betting every hour on the hour, trying to make back my money, I decided I surrendered. I finally made the call on October 1st, 2014, and started step 1. Step 1 in this yellow book, which I keep on my side by my bed every night. Admitting I was powerless over gambling and my life has become unmanageable. And I attended my first meeting that night. Recovery began entering the SAFE program twice a week with my wife and with my wife. Gamblers Anonymous meetings twice a week. So basically my whole week was about recovery. Asking for help was the hardest and most crucial step. Asking for help was the hardest thing I had to do. Going to see this bookie all the time, going to the bank and seeing my money gone, I didn't care. Asking for help, being vulnerable, that got to me. In our community in general, we often see asking for help as a weakness, but it's actually a sign of strength. As the Rambam teaches us, no man is born wise. We all need guidance and support to grow and overcome these challenges. I had to throw some rabbi stuff in there, whoever's here. Maybe somebody's here, but
If they're not, they'll hear us.
they'll hear us, okay. SAFE's mission is to address the disease of the addict, given the options that they meet for their clients and their families. But there's one thing you need to know. It can happen to anybody. If you don't think that it can happen within your family, They can. The illness, the compulsion, the craziness, it doesn't discriminate. Regardless of your background, your age, or your status, it makes no difference. I continue to seek help through meetings. I used to go twice a week to my GA rooms, my sponsor, who I owe a lot of gratitude to, the people here as my support system. They told me actually that this guy probably won't come back. You know how many people actually make it in the program? 2%. 2 out of every 100 people who walk into the room and say that they have a problem gambling actually stick around. As years went by, I started feeling better. I kept with the program. I got a sponsor. I listened to Ike. I got the help that I need. I went through SAFE. But we call it in the program life on life's terms. Fast forward 6 years. I want everyone to take a minute and just close your eyes for a second and really do it. It's worth it. March 2020. What's the first thing you realize or hear? It could be sirens. It could be COVID. It could be spending Pesach alone. We're past that, right? Harry, I remember where you were. We were standing together at a fundraiser a couple of days right before.
Yeah. Who knew?
You know what I remember? I remember rushing my 20-month-old son, Michael, to the hospital on a Thursday afternoon in March. A couple of days after Purim, he wasn't feeling well. The world was dealing with COVID, and we were focused on Michael. A couple of days in the hospital, they said he was going to be okay. We brought him back home, and we thought that that was that. He started playing again. He started being happy again. Monday, March 16, 2020, we woke up and our lives have changed forever. Our son Michael had passed away from a respiratory virus that morning. Waking up to see that pain on my wife's face when she found him in his crib, that's pain. Seeing people who are struggling, seeing myself struggle, didn't make a difference because I was self-inflicting. But when I saw her, that felt real. It was real. I didn't want to talk to anyone for a very long time. I remember feeling that moment that I haven't felt in years. I was sitting during my Shiva, and I couldn't speak to anyone. I had all the right to go back to gambling, and no one would have opened their mouth. But I didn't, because that wouldn't have brought Michael back. Because of this, my amazing wife and I have turned the greatest tragedy into a beautiful organization that you guys might have known or not. And now this is our achievement of that, we'll call it. But we started it's called the Michael Cameo Foundation in memory of our son. Which we help kids throughout Purim, because that was the last time we spent with him. We have memorialized him with 2 beautiful parks here on the Jersey Shore, one in the Chabad and one at the new DSN playground.
Gorgeous.
Thank you. Thanks, man. That's all because I reached out. That's all because I asked for help. GA stands for GB, Get Back. I was able to get back my life because of SAFE and because of the program. That's all because 6 years prior, I made the toughest decision to call Spike. That's what SAFE does. They don't just treat the symptoms, they empower to rebuild their lives and your lives. When Ike called me originally, I thought it was one of two things, either speaking to another school, which I was okay with maybe because they're little kids, because I think that that's the most important thing, or somebody was really struggling. And he looked at me and he said, step up. This is your time to step up. So I did, and I'm very happy I did. Every dollar you contribute to this organization is money well spent, because you never know whose life you might change or save. I'm a regular guy walking the streets, and you would never know that I had an addiction to gambling. Anybody walking in the streets, you would never know. It's totally different than alcohol use and drug use, not to say that they're any less concerning. You have to ingest something as drugs. You have to consume something as alcohol. Anybody sitting here can be a compulsive gambler. Our kids can walk into the dangers like that. Thank God my kids never had to see that side of me, because I never had kids when I was, out there. And I'm grateful for that every single day and every moment. So believe in the power of help and step up. Be confident in your journey. And don't be afraid, because I promise you this, it's worse on the other side. You'd rather have your life back. Take responsibility. Rabbi Meir said this yesterday, and I was telling him, I'm so happy to be here. He said, take responsibility of your actions. When you do that, you wake up. I was sleeping for a very long time, and I decided to take back my life, and I wanted to take back my life. SAFE is here for you and your family, and I'm here for you as well, because no one should do this alone. Thank you for listening, and today I feel safe.
Thank you, Morty. I can't imagine the courage and the strength that it takes to share your story.